Hi, I'm Melita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian, and today I will be talking about my anticipated June releases. Okay, another anticipated video, but it's for June. Let's get started. We actually have a quite a decent amount, more than I originally thought, mostly because it seems like June is very much the romance month, I guess, which makes sense because June is typically when wedding season starts. I don't know, it just seemed like there was a bunch of romance in particular, which, not to say that I'm against it or that I don't like it. I do enjoy romance. It's not what I'm feeling at the moment. So I can't say that for sure if I was really anticipating any of them. I know there's a new Allie Hazelwood, but currently Allie Hazelwood's on the fence for me in terms of whether or not if I don't quite understand if I like her writing or not. So let's go into the ones that I have found that aren't particularly romance. The first day of publication releases is June 1st. Here, let's adjust you slightly. Is The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands by Sarah Brooks. This is a fantasy historical fiction talking about the Great Trans-Siberian Express, which is a cargo train that now is taking people from Beijing to Moscow, and it's kind of just going into the dangers, or like it's basically transporting people between the two through shadowy wastelands. And there's secrets and whispers that the train isn't safe. And that's all I really want to know about it. I think it's a really cool cover. I don't know. I think it could have been a little more dynamic. I like the train going around the border. I like the scroll turning into smoke for the train. I think that's really clever. But the background itself, there's like, I don't know. It looks like a bunch of paint, but I have a feeling that if I see it in person, it's actually going to be the wastelands. So, I don't know. I don't know. There's something lacking to it, but I do like it for the most part. Next, we have a small handful of books coming out on June 4th, and the first of those is Bright and Tender Dark by Joanna Pearson. This is a thriller mystery, basically going between two timelines in 1999 and 2019. In 1999, actually rather in 2000, days after Y2K, Carly Richards is found brutally murdered in her campus apartment. Those who knew Carly and those who just knew of her remain consumed by her death. Among them is her freshman year roommate, Joy. Now, 2019, decades later, she finds a 20-year-old letter from Carly and believes that the man who's now imprisoned for Carly's murder is wrongfully convicted. So it's giving some vibes of like other books that have had these same tropes, but I'm still curious about them. I'm finding I don't mind these tropes. The tropes have piqued me, so I'm curious to see if it is in fact tropes that I do enjoy. Like I'm interested about them. I think it lends itself to a good story, but have yet to find a good story that is written with those. So we'll see how that works. Next we have Fire Exit by Morgan Talty. This is the newest from Morgan Talty. The previous one was Night of the Living Rez, which I gave 3 stars. It wasn't bad. This one have Charles Lamosway, who is watching the life he might have had unfold across the river on Maine's Penobscot Reservation. Morgan Talty is Penobscot. My apologies if I'm saying that wrong. On the far bank, he catches glimpses of his neighbor Elizabeth. From the day she came home from the hospital to her early 20s, but there's been something deeper and more dangerous than the river that divides him from her and the rest of the tribal community. It's the secret that Elizabeth is his daughter, and he's no longer willing to keep that a secret. So that's all I really want to know. I feel like this is going to be very heavy hitting, but I'm really curious about it just because I want to explore more of Morgan Talty's writing. So We next have a nonfiction that is by Amarina Kingdon. This Amarina is a award-winning science journalist, and this book is called Sing Like Fish: How Sound Rules Life Underwater. And it's basically just kind of debunking the fact that us humans believe the ocean is a silent world, how sound actually travels quite far and kind of rules over the life of the sea creatures living within it, and how human-made sounds can really affect those marine animals. So, which I'm really curious about. This is a really cool cover. I really enjoy it. I've always loved nonfiction. I'm really kind of into it right now, particularly. I'm a little worried when it comes to sound science, though, just because I'm not the there's very little I know about it, but I think it'll be a really interesting read, because I remember when there were like articles coming out that sonar from human submarines were affecting whales, and I think there was some issues that have popped up when it came to offshore wind turbines also affecting. I don't know if that was necessarily due to sound or due to the construction of those wind turbines. So next we have Brat by Gabriel Smith. This is contemporary gothic horror, and I know very little about it. I don't really want to know more, but it's basically we are following okay, so I'm going to read the synopsis directly, the first paragraph anyway, because it's really funny, or really kind of self-aware. We meet our ill-tempered protagonist, the story's titular Brat, at a low moment, but not yet at rock bottom. The Gabriel of the novel is mourning the death of his father as well as a recent breakup, and is struggling to finish writing his second book. Alone and aimless, he agrees to move back into his parents' house to clear it out for sale. Here the cliches end. So he goes back to this house and is having trouble delivering on his promise because the house is kind of crumbling and falling apart around him through mold and overgrowth, and then he finds that his health is also deteriorating. Like, swaths of his skin begin to peel from his body at a terrifying rate. Like I said, that's all I really know going into this. We'll see. It kind of reads, just reading the synopsis, reads like a like a horror dream. So we'll see when and if I get this. I'm just kind of curious about it, and for some reason I'm finding that books with deer on the cover have me intrigued. Next we have another Indigenous author, and that is K.A. Cobell, who is Blackfeet, and this is Looking for Smoke. This is a young adult mystery thriller where we are following Mara Rassett. Has moved back to the Blackfeet reservation, feels like an outsider, constantly taunted by her tight-knit classmates for growing up far away. So a local girl includes Mara in a traditional Blackfeet giveaway to honor her missing sister, and Mara thinks this is finally like her making friends. But instead, a girl from the giveaway, Samantha Whitetail, is found murdered, and therefore everyone that was involved within the giveaway is now a suspect, including Mara. That's all I know. That's all I really want to know. I really like this cover. It's really, I'm really liking it. And now I have to pause because my cat's acting like she is dying if she stays inside any longer. So I'll be back. See, the last one scheduled to come out June 4th is also by an Indigenous author, and this is Connor Kerr, who is Métis, called Prairie Edge. This one, we're following two cousins, and they're making use of Gray's uncle's old trailer, passing their days playing endless games of cribbage and cracking a beer between each game. Gray actually used to be a passionate advocate for change, but has hardened due to and turned cynical by an activist culture she thinks has turned performative and lazy. But manages to convince Ezzy, who is hopelessly devoted to her, to capture a herd of bison from a national park and set them free in downtown Edmonton. So I think this one's going to be really curious. I'm really curious how this goes. I think it's going to have some good discussions. The next release date is June 6th. We have one for this, and that is The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. So Lucy Foley, so far in the writings that I have tried to read from her, I listened to the guest list. I gave it 3 stars, and then tried to read The Paris Apartment and DNF'd it. So I'm unsure. So far, it's not looking good for Lucy Foley in terms of if her reading clicks with me or not, but this one sounded pretty interesting, so I am going to give her another shot. But this one is supposedly like a closed door, locked room murder mystery, not closed door. Okay. Place called The Manor. It's opening night of its, for its grand opening, its opening night. It's spared no expense, small or large. There's an infinity pool, crystal pouches for guests healing in each of the seaside cottages, manor mules, which is grapefruit, ginger, vodka, and a dash of CBD oil. I swear if that had tequila in it, that would be perfect. It is being poured with a heavy hand, but there's issue with the grounds, the employees of the grounds and the local people. There's been confrontations, and there's talk of folklore, because it must be folklore, where birds are said to right the wrongs to those that elude the law. I'm unsure how to feel about it. I'm ultimately intrigued. So I think this might be like the next one I read from Lucy Foley to see if I enjoy her writing or not. So, alright, next we do have another small handful for June 11th. The first is The Ghost of Us by James L. Sutter. This is a young adult romance that's sapphic. And we are following 18-year-old Kara, who is a ghost hunter and is determined to escape life as a high school outcast by finding proof of the supernatural, which doesn't sound right. I don't think you'll escape life as an outcast by finding proof of supernatural, but okay. Stumbles upon the spirit of Aiden, a popular upperclassman that died several years ago. The reason why he has stayed behind, essentially, is because ever since his death, his younger sister has been a shell of what she used to be. And so Aiden makes a deal with Kara that she take his younger sister to prom and get her to come out of her shell. And if she successfully does that, then he'll give her Kara all the proof she needs to prove that ghosts are real. So it sounds kind of witty. It sounds fun. I really like this cover. I love the colors. I love the illustration. It sounds kind of heartwarming and cute, and I don't know. I'm really intrigued, and I like the paranormal element of it. So next we have Gretchen Felker Martin's newest release, and that is Cuckoo. Gretchen Felker Martin did Manhunt, which I also gave 3 stars. I enjoyed it for the most part. There were some elements that I feel like took it too far, in my opinion. It was too much for me. Let's say it that way. But this one is a queer horror adult mystery set in the late 90s. 5 queer kids whose parents want them fixed find themselves thrown together at a secretive tough love camp deep in the scorching Utah desert. Tormented and worked to the point of collapse by hardline religious zealots intent on straightening them out, then slowly become aware of something that in the mountains north of the camp is speaking to them in their dreams, and that children who return home to their families have changed. So again, interesting cover. I am curious about more of Gretchen Felker Martin's writing. I'm hoping this isn't as splatterpunk. I believe that's how Manhunt was described. I actually, so far the covers are really intriguing when it comes to Gretchen Felker Martin's work. I thought the cover for Manhunt was just like on point. But yeah, it's just the writing that I still need to figure out for myself, really. So next we have The Stars Too Fondly. This is by Emily Hamilton. This is science fiction, queer romance. And we are following Cleo and her friends who truly didn't mean to steal the spaceship. They just wanted to know why 20 years ago the entire Providence crew vanished without a trace. The stupid dark matter engine started on its own, and now these 20-somethings are en route to Proxima Centauri and unable to turn around while being harangued by a hologram that has the face and snide attitude of the ship's missing captain, Billy. I don't know, this sounds like a fun romp through space, and it happens to contain queer romance, so I don't know, it just sounds like kind of a fun, lighthearted one. I've been wanting more space romps, really, that aren't so much of colonization. I don't know. I think that's my fear when going into spacey sci-fi things, is that it's ultimately colonizing some kind of, but maybe that's just my presumption. I don't know. Do you have a favorite sci-fi that's like set in space that's really lighthearted? I've already read Becky Chambers. I've read all of her work. So anything else, let me know down in the comments. That'd be great. Thank you. Next, we have another nonfiction, and it's having to do with history, science, and nature, and it's The Great River, The Making and Unmaking of the Mississippi by Boyce Upholt. One thing I really enjoy about nonfictions is that it pretty much tells you what it's about in the title. This is the history of the Mississippi and the centuries of human meddling that have transformed both it and America over thousands of years. I'm really curious about it. Like I said, I'm always a big fan of nonfiction and have been even more so lately, but this one definitely seems like one that I would definitely gravitate towards and just kind of like pull in. So yeah, it sounds really fun, particularly because like within the first couple of, I think it's within the first sentence of the synopsis, it says that it was home to, the watershed was home to, there we go. The Mississippi watershed was home to millions of indigenous people who regarded the great river with awe and respect, adorning its banks with astonishing spiritual earthworks. My only problem with that sentence is the past tense. I'm sure there is, hopefully, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that there's some indigenous people still living next to the Mississippi or on the Mississippi. So I've been really particularly like nitpicky with that lately, because unless like you scoured each edge of the Mississippi, how can you put that in past tense? So we're still here. Indigenous people are still here. Talk to us. Next, we have the newest one for Paul Tremblay, and that is Horror Movie. I have not read a Paul Tremblay. I had wanted to read the Pallbearers Club, and just wasn't able to get into it. I don't know why. I think I tried listening to it, and that wasn't working for me. So I think it is one that I need to get physically, whether through my library or to purchase. And I think. But I think I tried it that way too. I don't know. Something wasn't working. I still want to read it. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset. So, but this one is Horror Movie, and this one is it is set, of course, is another horror, thriller, mystery. And in June 1993, a group of young guerrilla filmmakers spent 4 weeks making Horror Movie, a notorious disturbing art house horror flick. The weird part, only 3 film scenes were ever released to the public, but it's created this huge, rabid fan base. 3 decades later, Hollywood wants to make a big budget reboot. Only one of the actors from the original film is still alive, and they remember the horrors that went into creating the film that apparently ended in tragedy. As memories flood back in, the boundaries between reality and film, past and present, start to blur, but he's going to help remake the film, even if it means navigating a world of cynical producers, egomaniacal directors, and surreal fan conventions. Demons of the past be damned. So I'm really curious about it. I'm loving this like throwback to VHSs. A lot of people are realizing like for 80s and 90s kids to like definitely have that nostalgia feel to sell, which I mean, whatever. It's working. Okay. The next release date is June 18th, and we have a small handful for this one as well. Starting off with Craft Stories I Wrote for for the Devil by Anata Lima. This is a horror short story collection following this woman who in 1999 slept with the devil, and she sees him again and again throughout her life and writes stories for him about things both impossible and true, leading readers into surreal pockets of the United States and Brazil. Let's see, as well as speaking to modern Brazilian American immigrant experience of ambition, fear, longing, and belonging, and reveals the porousness of storytelling and the places we call home. That scared me. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I ended up getting a phone call. I don't remember where I was. Craft stories I wrote to the devil. I'm intrigued by this, but I'm also very cautious because I'm not the best when it comes to short story collections. When it comes to finishing them, I have like 3 started next on my nightstand, and none of them were like near complete. So, and I've had them there for like months, possibly years. So we'll see how this goes. But I am still excited about it. Next we have Daughter of Calamity by Rosalie M. Lynn. This one is the historical fantasy horror. It sounds really dark and I'm really excited. We are following Jing Wen, who spends her nights as a showgirl at Paramount, one of the most lavish clubs in Shanghai, competing ruthlessly to charm wealthy patrons. She runs money for her grandmother, the exclusive surgeon to the most powerful gang in the city, a position her grandmother is pursuing her to inherit. But when a series of cabaret dancers are targeted, the attackers stealing their faces, and their faces are winding up on socialites, there's some kind of issues going on, and Jing Wen believes that she could be next. So that's all I know. That's all I want to know. It sounds really intense and really dark, and I'm really excited for it. Next we have Of Jade and Dragons. It's the first book in the Fall of Dragons series, it looks like, but I don't know how many is supposed to be in the series, by Amber Chen. I remember seeing this cover on Instagram and really was like, ooh, like really intrigued, and so added it. This is a young adult fantasy romance where we were following 18-year-old Ying, who dreams of becoming a world-class engineer like her father, but after his sudden murder, her life starts falling apart, left only with his journal of engineering secrets and a jade pendant snatched from the assassin. A heartbroken Ying follows the trail to the capital and the prestigious Engineers Guild. She pretends to be her brother in this male-only exclusive engineer guild. After taking some tests and passing them, there's a target on her back because of who her father was, and she has to constantly stay one step ahead of her competitors. But of course, to make everything murky, the one person that knows who she is and is helping her throughout the whole thing is she's developing feelings for him. So yeah, we'll see how. I'm sorry, I keep saying we'll see how that goes. Yeah, obviously, at some point we will. Next we have another nonfiction. This time it's a memoir, and that's Bird Milk and Mosquito Bones by Priyanka Mattu. This is, from what I understand, kind of a travel thing, kind of a hard-hitting memoir where Mattu talks about being born in a wooden house in the Himalayas, as were most of her ancestors, in 1989. However, mounting violence in the region forces Mattu's community to flee. The home into which her family poured the dreams was reduced to a pile of rubble. Mattu never moved back to her beloved Kashmir because it no longer existed. She and her family just kept packing and unpacking and moving on. In 40 years, Mattu accumulated 32 different addresses. Basically chronicles her nomadic existence with wit, wisdom, and an inimitable eye for light within the darkest moments. So I know that She's been searching for a home from Kashmir to England to Saudi Arabia to Michigan to Rome and finally to Los Angeles. So it sounds like a hard-hitting but fun. Okay, the last one we have for June 18th is How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig DeLuey. Craig DeLuey was the author of episode 13, which is one of the first books that I annotated, I think last year. It was a fun read. I did only rate it 3 stars, but I'm curious about his other works. I've heard mixed things about like other works. It's been a hit or miss, but I want to see how I like it, and so far this is the one of the ones that I think sounds most intriguing. We are following like Max Mori, who should be on top of the world. He's a famous horror director. Actors love him. Hollywood needs him. And he's making money hands over fist. But it's the 80s and all people want are slasher and more blood rather than art. Not real horror. And Max's slimy producer refuses to fund any of his new ideas. Sally Priest dreams of being a final girl, and she's been cast for like little things, but she thinks she can make it as a final girl if they just let her. And she meets Max at his latest rap party, where she sets out to impress and prove her scream queen prowess. But Max ends up discovering an old camera that was filmed by a very real Hollywood horror. He knows that he has to use the film in the camera in his next movie. Only problem is that there's a cryptic warning and sometimes wails coming from the camera itself. So that's all I know. That's all I really want to know. I'm not sure how to feel about the cover, but the premise of the book sounds interesting enough. And the final release date is June 25th, and we have 2 books for this date. And the first one is Foul Days, the first in the Witch's Compendium of Monsters by Genoveva Dimova, and with art by Ravina Kai, who is one of my favorite cover artists. That she's done stuff such as A Lot's Away by Darcy Little Badger, as well as redoing the Temporary series by Naomi Novik. Speaking of which, this is what its Foul Days is being compared to. It's The Witcher meets Naomi Novik in a fast-paced fantasy rooted in Slavic folklore. We're following Kosara, who is a witch in the walled city of Chernograd, who has plenty of practice taming rusalkas, fighting kikomoras, and brewing lycanthrope repellent. There's only one monster Kosara can't defeat, and that's her ex, Zmei, known as the Tsar of Monsters. She's defied him one too many times, and now he's on the hunt for her. Betrayed to him by someone close to her, Kosara's only hope is to trade her shadow, the source of her powers, for illegal passage across the wall of Belgrade, where monsters can't follow. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. This sounds amazing. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. It sounds fun. And then lastly for this list, we have Bear by Julia Phillips. This is a contemporary literary fiction where we are following 2 sisters. I believe it's Anna and Elena. No, Sam and her sister Elena, who dream of another life. They live on an island off the coast of Washington, and from where they were born and raised, and are helping their mother struggle to survive. Sam works long days on the ferry delivering wealthy mainlanders to their vacation homes, while Elena bartends at the local golf club. But even together they can't earn enough to get by, stirring their frustration about the limits that shape their existence. But one night Sam sees a bear cross the channel, and later ends up seeing the bear next to their house. Sam thinks this is an omen that they need to leave the island right now, but Elena sees it completely different. She believes that it's an enchanted presence and throws doubt into the plan of escape that puts the long-held dream in danger. So this, I think, will be really interesting. This I want to get more into stuff that is focused in the Pacific Northwest, so I think this will be fun. So yeah, those are the books that I'm anticipating for June. What are some of the ones that you're anticipating? Was it any of these, or is there something that I didn't mention that you think I would like that I should be anticipating? Please leave in the comments down below. Otherwise, let's go ahead and put a bear emoji if you just aren't feeling the questions or don't have the spoons to. Otherwise, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like the video, subscribe if you have yet to do so, and I hope that you're in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading. Hope to see you in another video very soon. Chew.